The patrol ship Horizon moved slowly through the darkness of space. Captain Park Do-hyun stood at the bridge window, watching the stars pass by like tiny diamonds scattered across black cloth. He had been a captain for 15 years, and space had become his second home. But today, something felt wrong. Lieutenant Kim Yuna turned from her station with worry in her eyes. "Captain, we received a distress signal from Colony 7 2 hours ago. But now there is nothing. Complete silence." Do-hyun felt his stomach tighten. Colony 7, also called New Bizen, was home to 2.3 million people. Farmers, teachers, children, families. His own cousin lived there with her 2 young daughters. "How long until we arrive?" 40 minutes, sir." Those 40 minutes felt like 40 years. When the Horizon finally dropped out of hyperspace above Colony 7, Do-hyun's heart stopped. The beautiful blue and green planet he remembered was now gray and brown. Massive black marks covered the surface like wounds on skin. "What happened here?" whispered Yuna, her voice shaking. Do-hyun could not answer. He ordered the ship to descend through the atmosphere. As they flew lower, the horror became clear. Cities that once held millions were now fields of ash. Buildings had melted into twisted metal shapes. And everywhere, there were shadows burned into the ground. The Horizon landed in what used to be the capital city. Do-hyun stepped out first, his boots crunching on gray ash. The air smelled like burning and death. He walked forward slowly, his crew following behind him in shocked silence. The shadows were the worst part. They were not normal shadows. They were the shapes of people, burned permanently into walls and streets by extreme heat. Do-hyun saw the shadow of a mother holding her child. He saw the shadow of an old man sitting on a bench. He saw hundreds of shadows frozen in their final moment of life. His crew spread out to search for survivors. Deep inside, Do-hyun knew they would find none. Whatever weapon had done this left nothing alive. Not a single plant, not a single animal, not a single person. Yuna found something in the ruins of a school. She called Do-hyun over with a broken voice. When he arrived, she was kneeling next to a small shadow on the playground. The shadow was a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And next to the shadow, somehow untouched by the fire, was a small stuffed bear. Do-hyun picked up the bear. It was soft and brown, with a red ribbon around its neck. Some child had loved this bear. Some child had held it close during scary nights. And now that child was nothing but a mark on the ground. For the first time in 30 years, Do-hyun felt tears roll down his face. "Captain," called another crew member. "We found the colony's black box. The recording device. It survived." They brought the black box back to the Horizon and connected it to the main computer. Do-hyun ordered everyone to watch. They needed to see. They needed to know who did this. The recording began with normal colony life. People walking to work, children going to school, farmers checking their crops. Then the sky changed. Massive ships appeared from nowhere, blocking out the sun. The ships were elegant and curved, decorated with symbols that every human knew. Vellani warships. The Vellani Dominion, one of the 2 great powers in the galaxy, had attacked Colony 7. A voice came from the lead ship, broadcast across the entire planet. The voice was cold and spoke in the common galactic language. "Humans of this world, you have been judged. Your species spreads like disease across clean space. You are contamination. You are pollution. By order of High Sovereign Veleth, you will be cleansed." The colonists had no time to run, no time to hide, no time to even scream. Bright white light poured from the Vellani ships. The light touched everything and turned it to ash in seconds. The recording caught people running, people praying, people holding their loved ones. Then static. Then nothing. The bridge of the horizon was completely silent. Some crew members were crying. Others stared at the screen with empty eyes. A young engineer vomited in the corner. Do-hyun turned off the recording. His tears had dried. Something cold and hard had replaced the sadness in his heart. He looked at his crew, at their grief and shock and growing anger. The Vellani Dominion has been part of the Galactic Accord for 40,000 years, he said quietly. We signed a peace treaty with them when we first entered the stars. We traded with them. We trusted them. And they murdered 2.3 million of our people because they think we are insects. He walked to the communication station and began recording a message for Earth Command. His voice was steady now, calm in a way that was more frightening than screaming. This is Captain Park Do-hyun of the patrol ship Horizon. I am transmitting all data from Colony 7, including the complete black box recording. The Vellani Dominion has committed genocide against our people. 2.3 million humans are dead. Men, women, children, babies. All dead, not in war, not in conflict. They killed us because they believe humans are worth less than animals. He paused, looking out the window at the ruined planet below. I am requesting that this recording be shown to every human on every world. Let our people see what was done here. Let them see the shadows of our children. Let them hear the Vellani call us contamination. Let every human being understand that the galaxy sees us as nothing. Do-hyun ended the recording and sent it. Then he ordered the Horizon to stay in orbit and continue documenting the destruction. Every shadow would be recorded. Every name would be remembered. The galaxy might think humans were weak, primitive, unimportant. But Do-hyun knew something the aliens did not understand. Humanity had a long memory. Humanity felt pain deeply. And when humanity was hurt, truly hurt, something changed inside them. Something ancient and powerful woke up. He held the little stuffed bear in his hands as he watched his crew work. Somewhere in the universe, the Vellani were probably celebrating their easy victory over the primitive humans. They were probably laughing at how simple it had been. They would not be laughing for long. Do-hyun spoke quietly to himself, making a promise to the shadows below, to the 2.3 million souls who deserve justice. You will not be forgotten, and the ones who did this will pay. I swear it on my life. They will pay. The Horizon continued its sad watch over the dead world, recording everything, missing nothing. In offices across Earth and the colonies, leaders received the transmission. They watched. They wept. And deep inside each of them, a fire began to burn. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They just did not know it yet. Part 2. The Galaxy Laughs President Choi Moran had not slept in 3 days. She sat in her office in Geneva, watching the recording from Colony 7 for the 20th time. Each time she watched, she hoped it would be different. Each time, the same white light turned her people to ash. Her assistant knocked softly and entered. Madam President, Ambassador Han is ready to leave for Harmony Prime. The Galactic Accord Council has agreed to hear our case. Moran nodded slowly. Tell her to present everything. Every piece of evidence. Every recording. Every shadow. Make them see what the Vellani have done. The space station Harmony Prime floated in neutral territory, far from any homeworld. It was here that the great powers of the galaxy met to discuss treaties and settle disputes. Ambassador Han Jisu arrived with a heavy heart and a folder full of evidence that should shake the universe. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from dozens of species. Some had scales, some had feathers, some looked like nothing Han had ever seen. At the center sat the two most powerful groups, the Vellani Dominion and the Kreth Assembly. Together, they had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. High Sovereign Veleth of the Vellani sat on a raised platform, looking down at everyone else. He was tall and thin, with silver skin and eyes like cold stars. His species believed they were the highest form of life in the universe. Every other creature was beneath them. Han walked to the center of the chamber. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was strong. Honored representatives of the Galactic Accord, I come before you with evidence of a terrible crime. 3 weeks ago, the Villani Dominion attacked Human Colony 7 without warning. They killed 2.3 million innocent people. Men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong. She activated a holographic display showing the ruined planet. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some representatives looked away from the images of shadows burned into the ground. The Villani called us contamination, Han continued. They said we were pollution that needed to be cleansed. This was not war. This was murder. We asked the Galactic Accord to condemn this act and hold the Villani Dominion responsible. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then High Sovereign Velith rose from his seat, moving with the grace of a predator. The human representative tells only part of the story, he said smoothly. Colony 7 was established in territory that belongs to the Villani Dominion. We warned humanity many times to remove their infestation. They refused. We simply protected what is ours. Han felt her blood turn hot. That is a lie. Colony 7 was in neutral space, recognized by this very council. We have the original treaties. Velith smiled, and the expression held no warmth. Treaties can be interpreted in many ways. But let us speak plainly, since humans seem to prefer simple words. Your species has existed for a mere moment in cosmic time. You have had space travel for only 300 years. We have ruled these stars for 40,000 years. You breed like vermin and spread like disease across clean space. He looked around the chamber at the other representatives. Many of them were nodding. We did the galaxy a favor by removing that colony. You should thank us for our restraint in stopping at just one world. Be grateful, little humans. Be quiet. Accept your place in the natural order of things. Han turned to the Kreth assembly, hoping for support. The Kreth were the second great power, and they had always seemed more reasonable than the Villani. Surely they would see the injustice. The Kreth representative, a being made of shifting geometric shapes, spoke in a voice like grinding stones. The Kreth assembly finds this matter to be an internal Villani affair. We abstain from judgment. One by one, the other species gave their answers. Some abstained. Some openly supported the Villani. A few expressed mild concern, but offered no action. Nobody stood with humanity. Then came the worst moment. A representative from a minor species, one that humanity had traded with peacefully for decades, actually laughed. Perhaps the humans should learn to stay in their own small corner of space. Like pets who do not understand they are pets. Other laughter followed. Not everyone laughed, but enough did. The sound filled the chamber and carved itself into Han's memory. She stood there, surrounded by creatures who thought her entire species was a joke. She returned to Earth with the Council's decision. No action would be taken against the Villani. The massacre of 2.3 million humans was officially declared unimportant. That night, President Choi Moran addressed humanity. Her speech was broadcast to every colony, every ship, every human being who could receive a signal. She stood alone at a simple podium, her face showing exhaustion and grief and something harder underneath. My fellow humans, she began, today I must tell you something painful. The Galactic Accord has refused to help us. The Villani who murdered our families have faced no punishment. The galaxy looked at our dead children and decided they did not matter. She paused, her jaw tightening. They called us vermin. They called us disease. They laughed at our grief. They believe we are too young, too weak, too primitive to deserve respect. They think we will cry for a while and then accept our place beneath their feet. Her eyes found the camera directly. They do not know us. They do not understand what humanity becomes when we are pushed too far. We are not the species that surrenders. We are not the species that forgets. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars against ourselves. We crawled out of caves and reached for the stars with nothing but determination and rage against the impossible. Our voice grew stronger. The Villani have made a mistake that will echo through history. They have united humanity in a way that nothing else ever could. Every human now knows the truth. The galaxy does not respect us, does not protect us, does not value our lives. So we must protect ourselves. She straightened her shoulders. To the Villani and all who laugh today, remember this moment. Remember how you dismissed us. Remember how you mocked our pain. Because humanity remembers everything. And we have just begun to show you who we really are. The broadcast ended. Across human space, people sat in stunned silence. Then, slowly, something changed. Grief transformed into determination. Sadness hardened into steel. Families who had been crying began making plans in a secret room below the presidential palace. Admiral Lee Tyson met with President Choi. He was an old soldier with scars on his face and fire in his eyes. "How long do we need?" the president asked. "To build a fleet that can challenge the Villani? 2 years minimum. But if we push every factory, every scientist, every resource we have..." He thought for a moment. 18 months, maybe. President Choi nodded slowly. "Then we have 18 months. Make sure the galaxy keeps laughing. Make sure they think we are broken and beaten. Let them feel safe in their arrogance." She looked out the window at the night sky, at the stars where her enemies lived. "And when 18 months have passed, Admiral, we will teach the universe what happens when you harm humanity's children." Admiral Lee saluted and left to begin his work. The largest secret military project in human history was about to begin. And the galaxy, still laughing, had no idea what was coming. Part 3. The quiet before 18 months passed slowly for those who knew the truth. To the rest of the galaxy, humanity appeared broken. Human ships no longer traveled far from their colonies. Human representatives spoke softly at galactic meetings. Humans paid tribute to the Villani Dominion without complaint, sending valuable minerals and resources as a sign of submission. The Villani were pleased. High Sovereign Velith often spoke about how easily the primitive humans had been tamed. One demonstration of true power, and they had learned their place. Other species nodded and agreed. Humans were like children who had finally understood they could not fight adults. But in the darkness of space, far from any alien eyes, something very different was happening. Dr. Yoonhagen had not seen sunlight in 16 months. She lived in a secret facility hidden in the Oort cloud, the vast ring of ice and rock at the edge of the solar system. Here, surrounded by the brightest minds humanity had ever produced, she was building weapons that would change everything. The Villani shields worked by bending energy around their ships, she explained to a room full of engineers. Every species in the galaxy has tried to break through these shields for thousands of years. All have failed. She smiled, and there was something fierce in that smile. But we found a weakness. The shields cannot bend what they cannot detect. We have created weapons that fire projectiles so small and so fast that Villani sensors cannot see them. By the time their shields try to react, the damage is already done. Across human space, similar scenes played out in hidden places. Factories on distant moons produced warships in secret, ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They were not beautiful like Villani vessels. They were brutal and ugly, covered in armor and weapons. They were not built to impress. They were built to destroy. Commander Shin Yoonji trained pilots in asteroid fields where no one could watch. She was a small woman with short hair and eyes that never seemed to blink. Her pilots called her the Iron Lady, and they meant it with respect. The Volani fight at long range, she told her pilots. They use elegant tactics developed over 40,000 years. They've never faced an enemy willing to fly directly into their formations and fight at close distance. This is what we will do. A young pilot raised his hand. Commander, those tactics are considered suicide by every species in the galaxy. Yunji nodded. Yes, that is why no one has ever tried them against the Volani. They will not expect it. They will not be prepared. And by the time they understand what is happening, their beautiful ships will be burning. On a training planet far from any colony, Sergeant Oh Jungwoo drilled soldiers in something aliens found completely alien, hand-to-hand combat. The galaxy fought with drones and robots and weapons fired from great distances. No civilized species still fought with their own bodies, but humans had never stopped. Jungwoo's soldiers learned to fight in the tight corridors of spaceships. They practiced breaching doors and clearing rooms. They trained their bodies to become weapons. The Volani have never seen soldiers board their ships, Jungwoo told his troops. They believe combat means pressing buttons from far away. When we come through their walls with fire in our eyes and weapons in our hands, they will not know what to do. They will panic. They will break. And we will show them what humans do to those who hurt our families. His soldiers roared in response, their voices echoing across the training field. Not everyone working on the secret project was human. A Volani spy, known only by her codename Whisper, had been living among humans for years. She was supposed to watch for any signs of rebellion or resistance. For months, she saw nothing unusual. Humans seemed defeated and harmless, but then she began noticing small things. Shipments of metal going to strange locations. Scientists disappearing from universities. Young people joining the military in record numbers. Each piece meant nothing alone. Together, they formed a picture that made her blood run cold. She spent weeks gathering evidence, following trails that led to hidden facilities and secret programs. What she found terrified her. This was not a small resistance movement. This was not a desperate rebellion. This was a complete transformation of human civilization into a single weapon aimed at the Volani. Dominion. Whisper sent an emergency message to her superiors. You must listen carefully. The humans are not broken. They have been preparing for 18 months. Every factory, every scientist, every resource they have is focused on one goal. They are building a military force unlike anything we have faced. She paused, trying to find words for what she had seen. You do not understand. When we killed their colony, we did not defeat them. We united them. Every human now shares one purpose. They have stopped fighting among themselves. They have stopped all of their petty disagreements. They are working together with perfect focus, and they are coming for us. Not for territory, not for resources. They are coming for revenge. Her message reached Volani Command and was passed up the chain. It eventually reached High Sovereign Velith himself. He read it carefully, then laughed. This spy has lived among humans too long, he said to his advisors. She has caught their fear and their madness. Humans building weapons to challenge us? Humans threatening the Volani Dominion? Impossible. They are primitives who discovered space travel yesterday. We have ruled these stars since before their species existed. He deleted the message and returned to more important matters. Across the galaxy, human representatives continued to act weak and submissive. They apologized for any offense. They paid their tributes. They spoke softly and carefully. The Volani and other species saw this and felt confirmed in their beliefs. Humans had accepted their place at Lostad. Admiral Lee Tayson stood in the command center of the Hidden Fleet, looking at hundreds of warships that officially did not exist. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who knew they might not survive what was coming. None of them cared. They had all lost someone at Colony 7, or they knew someone who had. Every human carried that pain now. President Choi Moran visited the fleet in secret. She walked among the soldiers and shook their hands. She looked into their eyes and saw no fear, only determination. "Are we ready?" she asked Admiral Lee. "Yes, Madam President." "The fleet is prepared. The weapons are tested. The soldiers are trained. We can strike within the week." Choi nodded slowly. She thought about the 2.3 million shadows burned into the ground at Colony 7. She thought about the laughter in the Galactic Council chamber. She thought about every insult, every dismissal, every alien who had called humanity vermin. "Then give the order," she said quietly. "Show the galaxy what happens when they mistake our patience for weakness. Show them the price of our children's blood." Admiral Lee saluted. Within hours, the signal went out to every hidden ship, every secret base, every soldier waiting in the darkness. The time for pretending was over. The storm was about to break. Part 4. The storm breaks. The Villani border station Eternal Light was having a normal day. Officers monitored the empty space around them, watching for threats that never came. Humans occasionally passed through, always quiet, always obedient, always paying their fees without complaint. Life was peaceful for the superior species. Then the alarms started screaming. One moment, space was empty. The next, hundreds of human warships appeared from hyperspace, so close that the station's shields barely had time to activate. The Villani commander stared at his screens in disbelief. This was impossible. Humans did not have this many warships. Humans did not have ships that looked like this. The human vessels were terrifying. They had no elegant curves or beautiful designs. They were blocks of dark metal covered in weapons, built by people who cared nothing for appearance and everything for destruction. Before the commander could give a single order, the attack began. The Villani shields, which had protected their civilization for 40,000 years, flickered and died under weapons they could not detect. Human ships fired projectiles so small and fast that Villani sensors never saw them coming. Explosions tore through the station. Hull breaches opened like wounds, and then the boarding pods hit. Sergeant Oh Jungwoo was first through the breach, his armored boots slamming onto the station floor. His soldiers followed, their weapons already firing. The Villani inside had never experienced close combat. They tried to flee. They tried to surrender. Jungwoo's soldiers gave them no time for either. "Clear every room," Jungwoo ordered. "Secure the command center. Move fast." The battle for the station lasted 11 minutes. Not 11 hours, not 11 days. 11 minutes. When it was over, the Villani flag came down and the human flag went up. The galaxy's first sign that something terrible had begun. But this was just one station. The real war was happening everywhere at once. Admiral Lee Tayson commanded the main fleet from his flagship, the Vengeance. He had divided human forces into dozens of strike groups, each targeting a different Villani position. The attacks were perfectly coordinated, hitting military bases, supply stations, and communication centers at the exact same moment. The Villani command structure fell into chaos. They received distress calls from everywhere, but their communication networks were already damaged. Ships they sent to help one location were ambushed on the way. Reinforcements arrived to find battles already lost. Commander Shin Yoonji led the fighter assault on the Villani Third Fleet. It was one of their largest military forces. 100 warships that had never known defeat. They formed their traditional battle lines and prepared for a standard engagement. Yoonji's fighters did not follow the standard rules. Instead of staying at range, her pilots flew directly into the Villani formation. They wove between the massive warships, Too close for the big guns to target. Too fast for the point defense systems to track. They attached explosive charges to engine sections and shield generators, then pulled away seconds before the explosions began. The Volani had no training for this. Their captains screamed orders that made no sense. Their gunners shot at targets that were already gone. Ship after ship began to burn. "They are insane," a Volani officer transmitted in panic. "They are flying like they do not care if they die." He was right. Yunji's pilots had all lost family at Colony 7. They were not afraid of death. They were only afraid of failure. The largest battle happened at Velum Prime itself, the homeworld of the Volani Dominion. High Sovereign Veleth had gathered his personal fleet there, confident that no enemy would dare approach the heart of his empire. Captain Park Do-hyun approached at the head of a strike force led by his dreadnought, the Reckoning. He had waited 18 months for this moment. He had held that little stuffed bear from Colony 7 in his quarters every night, reminding himself why he was fighting. "Do-hyun," Admiral Lee's voice came over the secure channel. "High Sovereign Veleth's flagship has been identified. The Eternal Glory. He's commanding his fleet personally." Do-hyun felt his heart beat faster. "Understood, Admiral. The Reckoning will engage." The battle around Velum Prime was massive. Thousands of ships filled the space, their weapons lighting up the darkness like a deadly firework display. Human ships pushed through the Volani defenses with brutal efficiency. Every time the aliens tried to establish a battle line, human forces broke through it. The Eternal Glory was the largest ship in the Volani fleet, a magnificent vessel that represented 40,000 years of technological advancement. It should have been unstoppable. But as Do-hyun's Reckoning closed the distance, the great ship's shields began to fail under concentrated human fire. "Human vessel," Veleth's voice came over an open channel. "You are Captain Park Do-hyun, yes? The one who found the destroyed colony. I remember your transmission. Such emotion. Such primitive grief." Do-hyun did not respond immediately. He was watching his tactical display, looking for the right moment. "You should surrender," Veleth continued. "We can still show mercy. Your species can still serve a purpose under Volani rule. You do not need to die for nothing." Now Do-hyun spoke. His voice was calm and cold. 18 months ago, you burned 2.3 million people to shadows. You called our children contamination. You laughed at our pain. Did you think we would forget? Did you think we would forgive? The Reckoning fired everything. Missiles, projectiles, energy weapons, all targeting the Eternal Glory's damaged sections. The flagship shook under the assault. More shields failed, but the Eternal Glory was not finished. It returned fire with everything it had. The Reckoning took hit after hit. Explosions ripped through its hull. Crew members died at their stations. But the ship kept coming. "We do not forgive," Do-hyun said. "We do not forget. And we do not stop." Both ships were dying now. The Eternal Glory lost its engines. The Reckoning lost half its weapons. They drifted toward each other, still firing, still fighting. Do-hyun made his final decision. "All hands, this is the captain. Abandon ship. I am taking manual control." His crew protested, but he ordered them off. There was only one way to end this. He locked the Reckoning's course directly at the Eternal Glory. "Veleth," Do-hyun transmitted, "I want you to know something before you die. We were peaceful. We were kind. We wanted only to live among the stars in peace. You could have had humanity as a friend. Instead, you made us into this. Remember that as your ship burns, you created the very thing that destroyed you." The Reckoning rammed the Eternal Glory at full speed. Both ships broke apart in a massive explosion, visible from the surface of Velum Prime below. High Sovereign Veleth, ruler of the Volani Dominion for 3 centuries. died in fire just like the children of Colony 7, the Villani fleet. Seeing their leader's flagship destroyed, fell into complete disorder. Some tried to flee. Some tried to surrender. Human forces accepted no surrender that day. The battle continued until the Villani military around their homeworld ceased to exist. Across the galaxy, similar stories played out. Human forces struck with precision and rage that the aliens could not match. In 1 month, the Villani Dominion went from the greatest power in the galaxy to a burning ruin. Admiral Lee Tayson received reports from every front. Victory after victory. The enemy was broken. The price had been high. Many good people had died, including Captain Do-Yen. But the mission was complete. He sent one message to President Choi Moran. Just 3 words. It is done. The galaxy, which had laughed at humanity 18 months ago, was no longer laughing. They were watching in horror as the primitive species tore apart an empire that had stood for 40,000 years. And they were very, very afraid. Part 5. The New Order. 1 year had passed since the war. The Galactic Council chamber on Harmony Prime looked the same as before, but everything had changed. The seats were filled with the same species, the same representatives, the same ancient powers. But now they sat in silence, waiting for the human ambassador to speak. Ambassador Han Jisu walked to the center of the chamber. She moved slowly, letting each step echo through the quiet room. She remembered standing here before, presenting evidence of genocide, begging for justice. She remembered the laughter. No one was laughing now. 2 years ago, I stood in this chamber and asked for help. Han began. My people had been murdered. 2.3 million innocent lives erased from existence. I showed you the evidence. I showed you the recordings. I showed you the shadows of our children burned into the ground. She paused, looking around at the representatives. Many of them could not meet her eyes. You told us it was not your concern. You told us humans were vermin, disease, contamination. You told us to accept our place and be grateful that only one world was destroyed. Some of you even laughed. Her voice hardened. The Villani Dominion no longer exists as a power. 90% of their fleet has been destroyed. Their homeworld is occupied by human forces. High Sovereign Veleth died on his burning flagship, killed by a human captain who lost his family at Colony 7. The empire that ruled this galaxy for 40,000 years fell in 1 month. The chamber remained completely silent. Representatives from dozens of species sat frozen, afraid to move, afraid to speak. We could have done the same to them that they did to us, Han continued. We could have burned their cities. We could have killed their families. We could have turned their children to shadows. Our people wanted this. They screamed for blood revenge. She shook her head slowly. But we are not the Villani. We do not murder innocents. The Villani civilians are safe. Their culture will survive. We have taken only military targets and those directly responsible for the massacre. This is the difference between humanity and those who called us primitive. A representative from the Kreth Assembly tried to speak. Ambassador Han, the Kreth Assembly wishes to propose. I'm not finished, Han interrupted. The Kreth representative immediately went silent. No species interrupted humans anymore. Let me tell you what humanity wants. We do not want your territory. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want tribute or worship or submission. What we want is simple. She spread her hands. We want to be left in peace. We want to raise our children without fear. We want to trade and explore and grow alongside other species. We wanted this before the massacre, and we want it now. We are not conquerors. We are not destroyers. We are people who wish to live. Her eyes narrowed. But we have learned a painful lesson. The galaxy does not respect peaceful species. The galaxy only respects those with the power to defend themselves. So let me be clear about humanity's new position. She held up one finger. First, any attack on human territory, any attack on human people, will be met with overwhelming force. There will be no negotiations. There will be no appeals to councils. There will only be consequences. She held up a second finger. Second, we will defend any species that faces genocide or unjust aggression. What happened to us will not happen to others while we have the power to prevent it. The galaxy allowed our children to die. We will not allow other children to suffer the same fate. She held up a third finger. Third, we propose a new galactic accord. One based on genuine equality, where every species has worth regardless of how long they have traveled to stars. One where justice means more than power and treaties actually protect the innocent. She lowered her hand. You have seen what humanity can do when we are unified and angry. Now see what we can do when we are unified and hopeful. Work with us to build a better galaxy. Or stay out of our way while we build it ourselves. She walked back to her seat. The chamber erupted in desperate voices as representatives rushed to express their support for the new accord. Their desire for friendship with humanity, their regret for past mistakes. Han sat quietly through it all. She knew most of these words meant nothing. These species were afraid, not reformed. They would pretend to respect humanity until they thought they saw weakness again. But that was fine. Humanity no longer needed the galaxy's genuine respect. Fear would work just as well. Far from the political drama, Captain Kim Yuna commanded the rebuilt patrol ship Horizon. It was larger than the original, with better weapons and shields, but she had insisted on keeping the same name. Something should not be forgotten. She guided her ship through the space where Colony 7 had once orbited. The planet was still dead, still gray, still covered in shadows. But now a massive structure floated in orbit, the Memorial Station. Yuna docked and walked through the station's central hall. The walls were covered with names. 2.3 million names, each one representing a life that had been stolen. Families came here to remember. Soldiers came here to renew their purpose. Politicians came here before making any decision about war or peace. At the center of the hall stood a simple display case. Inside was a small stuffed bear with a red ribbon, recovered from the ruins by Captain Park Do-hyun. A plaque beneath it read, "She was 5 years old. She loved this bear. She never hurt anyone. Remember her. Remember all of them." Yuna touched the glass gently. She had served under Do-hyun. She had been there when he found the bear. She had watched him transform from a peaceful man into a warrior consumed by righteous anger. And she had cried when she learned of his sacrifice. "We did it, Captain," she whispered. "We made them pay. I hope you found peace." She returned to the Horizon and continued her patrol. Her crew was young, most of them born after the massacre. They had grown up hearing stories of Colony 7 and the war that followed. They were proud to serve, but they hoped they would never need to fight. On Earth, President Choi Moran stood before a window in her office, watching the sun set over Geneva. She was tired. 2 years of grief and planning and war had aged her 20 years. But she had kept her promise to the dead. Admiral Lee Tassin entered with a report. He was also tired, carrying scars from battles that would never fully heal. But there was satisfaction in his eyes. "The last Volani military leader has accepted terms," he said. "The occupation is stable. The demilitarization is complete. The war is officially over." Choi nodded. "And our own forces? Ready for anything." Project Prometheus continues in secret. New weapons, new ships, new technologies. If anyone ever threatens us again, we will be prepared. The president turned to face him. "Do you think it was worth it, Admiral? All the death, all the destruction, all the things we became. Lee thought for a long moment. "I think about the children at Colony 7, he said finally. "I think about what would have happened if we had done nothing. The Vallani would have grown bolder. They would have attacked again. More colonies, more millions of innocent people, more shadows burned into the ground." He straightened his shoulders. "We did not start this war. We did not ask for enemies. We tried to live peacefully among species who saw us as insects. When they crushed us, they expected us to die quietly. Instead, we showed them that humanity does not die quietly. We showed them that our children's lives have value. We showed them the price of their cruelty." He met the President's eyes. "Yes, Madam President. It was worth it. Every sacrifice, every loss, every difficult choice. Because our children can now grow up in a galaxy that will never again think humanity is easy prey." Choi smiled sadly. "Then let us hope the galaxy learns its lesson and lets us live in peace. And if they do not?" She looked out the window at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "Then we will teach them again, as many times as necessary, until they finally understand that humanity protects its own, no matter the cost." On the rebuilt Colony 7, now called Memorial World, a new generation of humans was being born. They would grow up knowing the story of the massacre and the war that followed. They would visit the names on the wall and the little bear in the glass case. They would learn that their ancestors had turned grief into strength, pain into purpose, and rage into justice. The galaxy had made one terrible mistake. They had thought humanity would accept being treated as nothing. They had thought wrong, and beneath the monument to the fallen, carved in stone in every human language, were the words that would guide humanity forever. "We remember. We always remember. The universe was vast and full of wonders and dangers. But wherever humans traveled, whatever challenges they faced, they carried two things with them: the memory of those they had lost, and the absolute certainty that they would never let it happen again." The stars stretched endlessly above the memorial. Somewhere out there, other species were watching humanity with new eyes. Some with fear, some with respect, some with hope for the better galaxy humans had promised to build. The story of Colony 7 had ended in fire and vengeance. But the story of humanity was just beginning.